We're joined by Justin Breidenbach, a professor of accounting at Ohio Wesleyan University and also an expert in the growing marijuana industry in Ohio. Justin, thanks for coming in again.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Some of the latest updates in the business, there have been some compliance issues with license holders. Tell us about that and what's occurring there.
Yeah, one of the big issues you're seeing in Ohio is you have a lot of individuals that received provisional licenses and then have also turned into sort of operational licenses that maybe are looking to exit the industry already. It just hasn't provided the profit or the cash flow that they were really hoping for. There's a lot of compliance and regulatory issues. It's just created headaches in which people have just said, look, it's not worth it to us and it's time to exit. So because of that, though, there's rules that have been established in Ohio that a lot of these license holders cannot legally give up their ownership for typically around a year. So you have a lot of people that are trying to maybe navigate that system, skirt the system a little bit, and structure some agreements with, other owners that are people that want to be owners and buy in to where people are trying to exit through these agreements, whether it's through a loan structuring, whether it's through ownership, whatever it might be. So we've had some compliance issues there where people just really aren't maybe following the letter of the law. It's not really fully 100% maybe against the way it's written, and people are just trying to figure out where that line is, and the state's also trying to deal with some of these issues.
And are they finding many, willing people to take up those businesses and purchase them?
Absolutely. There's a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of investors from other states, from even in Ohio, that definitely would love to get into this market. You have a lot of people that put in for licenses in Ohio that weren't able to become part of that license holder group initially. So they're definitely still looking to get involved somehow. But you also have a lot of people from out of state that are all of a sudden kind of looking towards Ohio and wanting to come in and maybe enter this this industry where maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, they just weren't ready to do that. So you do have a lot of people that are still looking to get in, just as much you have some people that have gotten in and maybe want to get out now already.
Okay. Another development in Ohio in the summer, hemp was legalized.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about that. What is hemp and what does that mean for the business?
Yeah, so hemp was legalized for commercial use at the end of July, so it was signed in by the governor of Ohio. And one of the issues we've had with hemp is just another offshoot of cannabis. You have marijuana, you have hemp, but hemp is really synonymous with this idea now of CBD. So CBD is a chemical compound that comes from cannabis in which it doesn't really have that euphoric high effect that people get with traditional marijuana use. So CBDs all of a sudden have really been useful, or at least people believe it to be useful in the health and beauty industries, also with some medical management in terms of pain, sleeping. So there's been sort of these other soft uses with CBD products that we don't normally have in these medical markets that are out there. So it'll be unique to see now that hemp is legalized what that industry is going to look like, because it's going to be overseen by the Department of Agriculture. So when medical marijuana was legalized in Ohio, that was really being overseen by the Department of Pharmacy, in which pharmacy was also overseeing hemp and CBD-based products. That now has been passed on to agriculture. So they're going to be basically empowered to create some regulations to figure out what that industry is going to look like, who can enter into that industry, how these things are going to be processed, manufactured, sold. So it's just a sort of another offshoot of the marijuana or the cannabis industry that's going to provide some opportunities for business owners to enter into this space, but in a different way.
Switching gears a little bit, I mentioned at the outset you are an accounting professor at Ohio Wesleyan, and that's your day job.
Correct.
You sort of developed this niche in the marijuana industry by doing research. What does that look like for you, and is that an ongoing thing?
It's constantly ongoing. Day to day, I'm updating myself on what's going on, not just in Ohio, but in other states throughout the U.S., but also even international markets. So I'm looking at what's going on in places like Canada that has recreational use. I'm looking at European countries that are adopting medical use or maybe even navigating into more adult recreational use. So yeah, I'm constantly trying to see what's going on in other areas, because just like with Ohio, you have investors that are based out of of Ohio that want to move into other states. You have people that want to go international and move into the Canadian markets or maybe European markets. So because of that, I'm really trying to stay up to date on what's happening everywhere. But even within our own backyard of Columbus, you have a company like Scott's Miracle-Gro that has connections into that Canadian market based on acquisitions that they've made and some networking that they've done within the industry. So it's definitely it's a big market. It's hard to keep track of every single thing that's going on from day to day in every single location, but I'm definitely still traveling a lot, still talking to a lot of people, seeing what's going on within politics and government and how each state's handling all these developments.
And you've gone personally, you've also taken groups of students. What places have you visited personally?
Yeah, so I got the opportunity about a year and a half ago to take a group of students to Seattle, Washington, in which we were able to let those students kind of look at a medical and adult use recreational market at the same time and meet with politicians, meet with compliance officers, meet with business owners, accountants, firms that are servicing the industry in that state. We got to look at cultivators and processors and dispensaries and retail shops, but it was a way for students to really sort of open their eyes up to not so much just the opportunities in this market, but really how this market touches a lot of other ancillary businesses. So I have a former student of mine that actually went on this trip, and I found it comical that she got a hold of me right after she got hired on with an accounting firm, and she was, "You're not going to believe this, but one of the clients that I'm dealing with right away off the bat for her first engagement was an LED light company, and they provide a lot of the LED lighting for the cannabis industry." So it was unique that as a first-year staff member coming in, she was sort of schooling the partners on this industry and what's really going on and how her client is really able to profit off of this emerging industry and business.
So as a result of your name getting out there, you're contacted not just by former students, but businesses and other CPAs, yes?
Correct, yeah. It's pretty much about once a month on average that I have some firm reaching out to me. Sometimes it's firms that are maybe looking to enter into the industry that just aren't touching it at all, but they're trying to evaluate options, figure out what are some of the risks and rewards with moving into this industry. I have other firms that have reached out that says, look, we have an individual that's making some small investments in the industry and they just want to figure out how to handle some of the accounting and tax implications with that. And I have other firms that have, fully engaged with businesses to work in this industry, and they're just trying to understand the ins and outs. It's not the everyday business that some of these firms are used to dealing with. So again, they're just trying to make sure that they understand all these components and that they're ahead of their clients so that they can really better service them.
Well, it's an interesting and ongoing story. Justin, thanks for the update.
Thanks for having me.